Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Planner in the Press. I'm your host, Phil Hartwell, Vice President of the Bridal Society. This morning, I'm joined by Joel Parra from Just Planned Events. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. The sun just came out just as we started this, and it's going to be a beautiful day, even though it's a little chilly here. And I know you're chilly up there in Boston, but thanks so much for joining me. I'm ready for the holidays, ready to get these weddings taken care of for the week, and then just enjoy some family time with friends and family. And I'm sure you are too. But tell us a little bit about Just Planned Events, Joelle, and your company and what part of the country you're in.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. So as you mentioned, I'm out of Boston. So Just Planned Events, I started in 2016 after I took the Bridal Society's course, certification course, and I am headquartered here in Boston. We are a wedding and event planning company that services all of New England, as well as we've kind of started to venture out into DC and I've done a few weddings out in New York City and such, but we kind of go all over the place. But our primary focus is here in New England, particularly the Massachusetts area, the Rhode Island and Maine areas of New England. But we kind of go wherever we're called. And so yeah, the team is two of us. It's myself and another certified wedding planner, Stacy, who's in the group. And so yeah, we've just been going since 2016. It's been awesome. And yeah, here we are.
That's awesome. So when you completed the Bridal Society's wedding planning certification, was it one of our in-person conferences or did you do that online?
Yes, so I've done both. So I've done the in-person conference, which was the first one I did in New York City in 2016. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. I like can distinctly remember seeing Lori. I remember my workbook. I remember the people that I chatted with. That trip to New York City was awesome. It was one of my favorite experiences and memories. And then I took the course again in 2019 2019, I believe. And I did the online certification, which I can't remember if it was live or not, but I digress. I did take it again in 2019 and it was just like I remembered.
Good, good. I know a lot of our members tend to do that. They'll go through our program, and of course, there's so much information that we go over in the running of your business and the connections you make in the community, that a lot of times after a couple of years, it's a good idea to take it as a refresher. And you're right. For a while there with the Bridal Society, we were in person in the different cities all over the country, and we always love going to New York City. Our education partner there, the New York Institute of Technology. They're always such a great, gracious host, and they have a wonderful hospitality program there. And it's always good to be in the city. But now, for convenience sake and for the sake of safety, really, we do have the program in an online, go at your own pace format. And then in between that, we also had live seminars that were long 2 days of just a lot of information. And I'm sure you took plenty of notes. And I can tell from the way I see your business going, we watch our members from afar in a non-creepy way, but we watch and see what members are doing. And it's good to see you thriving so much up there in Boston. But tell me what it was that got you into wedding planning in the first place. What was your interest initially with it?
Yeah. So I started thinking about my career and my future when I was 17, a high schooler, a junior in high school. And my senior year, I decided that I really needed to pay attention to what I wanted to do. And so I thought long and hard about what I could do. And then I I kind of put two and two together. So I added my highly organized personality and lover of planning in advance for everything. I merged that with my love for honestly like Netflix rom-coms. And then when I merged the two, I was like, okay, I love planning. why not merge the two into wedding planning? And that's kind of how it all started out for me. And um, I was lucky enough that the first wedding, well, when I was thinking about starting the wedding planning business, I didn't know which path to take. So I interned for a planner here in Boston, which was great. It was a whole summer of just being an assistant on the wedding days. It was super exciting, so much fun. And then I decided to just go out and start my own business. And the first bride that I worked with was my Uber driver. I was in an Uber, and my bride just kind of, and this my Uber driver had mentioned how she was getting married, and I was like, and I mentioned to her that I wanted to start a business, and so I planned her wedding. And I believe a week before her wedding is when I took the conference, the Bridal Society's certification course in New York City.
Wow.
So that's kind of how it all started.
So I can imagine, you had ideas about what planning weddings were. You love being organized, but then you really needed to figure out, okay, if I want to do this, how do I do it as a professional? How do I organize my business? How do I make connections? How do I get business? Where's the business come from? Once they're sitting down in front of me, how do I even talk to people and explain my packages and my pricing? And those are all things that we, of course, go through with the wedding planning certification conference. And I actually remember you, Joel, because Lori talked about you after, after in between one of the breaks or in between one of the days. And she said, this kid came up to me and I believe the question you said is, am I too young for this? Do you remember asking her that? Something along that
Yeah,
line?
yeah.
And what
So I
did she tell
remember
you?
I went up to her, and I had said to her, I said, I'm too young for this. How do I get people to trust me with one of the biggest days in their lives? It was something along those lines. And I remember it was right after the networking portion of the class, I think, where Lori was talking about networking, and I had told her that I felt scared to network because I was so young. And so when I would go to these networking events in Boston, everybody was always asking, like, oh, what is that? What is that kid doing here, basically? And so I, and everyone would always ask me about my age and things like that. And so that was when I had asked Lori, I was like, I feel too young, and how can what can I do? Am I too young to start this business? Should I just work for someone else? Um, and and I remember that Lori gave me great advice, and part of that advice was to just dress my part and to exude confidence. And those two things have stuck with me ever since.
It really is. Everyone got started somewhere. Everyone gets started sometime, and everyone does something for the first time sometime, right? So there's nothing wrong with being a newer person in the industry. It's what you do with, and now that if you think about it, the time between that conversation and now, doesn't it seem like a lifetime ago? Like you've just been going about your business, learning your craft, honing it, making it really what work for you in the area that you're in. And here you are several years down the road, and you're not considered a newbie or whatever they want to label you as, before. Although there probably are still plenty of people who are in the industry in your area who have plenty more experience than you. There's nothing wrong with that. There's something I think fantastic about younger people getting into this industry, and you are relating more to the younger people who are getting married to right now. So there's a bridge there that needs to be developed, and I just don't like the idea of, oh, I've been doing this forever, so I know everything. I love to hear people always wanting to learn. So how many hours a week would you say, though, you work on your business, like, in whether it's planning, whether it's in front of clients, but how many hours a week would you say you dedicate to your business?
So on wedding weeks, it's a lot more, including kind of the wedding day and stuff like that. I would say I spend about 20, anywhere from 20 to 30 hours. It just depends on the time of year. In the winter, things really quiet down here in Boston. So that's more of the planning time, and kind of the sales time is like December to, you know, March, I would say.
Mm,
Um, So it kind of depends. It ebbs and flows. And then on the wedding day, definitely though, that's my 16-hour day.
Right.
Sometimes more.
I think people who are not in the industry don't even realize how wedding days are, even the day before too, all the connections that are happening leading up to that as the days come by. And then at the end of that day, you're just, you've worked an 18-hour day sometimes and just go home and collapse. So, but what would you say your favorite part is about being a certified wedding planner?
I would say my favorite part is being able to knowledge share with clients. I think it's really exciting when I'm the one who has the knowledge to give, and like when they ask me a question and I'm able to answer it and give them,
What? Even
you know.
someone as young as you, Joel? How could you possibly share any knowledge?
Yeah, so I think that's probably the most exciting part is when a client asks me something and I have that answer in my mind because whether I learned it at the Bridal Society's courses or I just learned it through experience, I have an answer for them. I would say a good amount of the time. There are times where I don't have that answer, and that's why I love that I can come on into the Bridal Society forum and ask those questions that I might not have the answer to, or maybe I need to set up time with Lori or something like that, if I get a tough question. But for the most part, a lot of the answers I can answer, and I think a lot of the reason why I can answer that is because um, I've taken all of these educational courses, and including the continuing education courses that the Bridal Society offers, but also I've done the design certification, I've done the master certification. And so I've been able to learn so much that now people come to me for questions. And I think that's super exciting because when I first started out, I was the one asking all these questions, and Googling the answers and stuff like that. And now I just I know what the answers are. And
Hmm.
it's really exciting to be able to provide clients with recommendations, and things like that.
I love that. I love that. And as you know, there are, if you ask 100 people what their opinion is about flowers or any of the details about a wedding, you'll get 100 different opinions. And goodness knows, going on Google and doing a search, who knows what kind of information you'll get from there. So it's good to hear that you have a good resource, not only the solid education you got during the course, during the wedding planning. That is a great foundation, and that certification is there. But I'm glad to hear that you're taking advantage of the continuing education that we provide as well, because that's always changing, as you know, especially in these last couple of years. What have we discovered about weddings? My goodness, I know before we started this interview, you were talking about how you're working with a client now who's now had to replan a couple of different times and reschedule. I know that a lot of our planners are dealing with that, with several reschedulings, and unfortunately, that's the nature of the beast right now. Hopefully, that will not always be the case, because planning weddings is hard enough as it is. But I'm glad you're relying on your fellow certified wedding planners all across the country when a question does come up that might be a little bit of a new thing that you hadn't heard before. So tell me, give me an example of a time when maybe you were at a wedding, an event, and something went wrong. The couple didn't even find out about it, and you went ahead and solved that problem and got it done without them even knowing.
Yeah, let me think about this. I mean, I have one example that happened to me like 2 weeks ago, but the couple was involved in that example just because it was, my bride misplaced her dress belt, but so I was driving to a bridal store that was like 20 miles away,
Hmm.
to get her a belt. But that's an example of something they know. But let me think about this. Yeah, I mean, oh, actually, I have one. I just had a wedding in DC, in October, and I was helping setting up, and I kind of had all of the bride had a box of just the personal items like the sign for the guest book and the bar signs and cocktail napkins and things like that. And she was kind of going for like a Beauty and the Beast theme for her table. And part of the items that she had brought were some candle holders and taper candles, specifically these little gold taper candles. They were beautiful, and it really made the room look like we were truly in like the Beauty and the Beast movie.
Hmm.
But she had bought the wrong size candle to go into the holder. And so I had to basically sit there and cut the shape of the taper candle to put it for it to fit inside of the little holder.
Hmm.
So that took me quite some time. She had no idea that happened, but I don't think I would have been able to do that if I wasn't able to think fast and think on my feet and be able to just like I've never carved a candle, let's say that. But being able to just quickly carve that candle and figure it out and put it in. So that's like a very recent example. One example that I can like really pinpoint to like, I believe it was one of our conferences. We learned how to tie a boutonniere or create a boutonniere or something like that, I believe.
Hmm.
And so I had a wedding this past summer where the groom's boutonniere just like fell apart.
Hmm.
And so I had to like stitch it back together and make a boutonniere come to life, which was not fun, but I had
Well,
some knowledge in my mind from what I remember, that helped me put it back together.
yeah, we do go over that in the conference because you just never know. Of course, hopefully you're dealing with a florist who's got plenty of experience and is someone that you trust, but you never know. Even florists have bad days, so sometimes they might only, deliver 6 when they should have delivered 7 or whatever. And sometimes you just have to think on your feet and be able to create something that works. It isn't maybe ideal, but it works and gets it done. And that's how wedding planners have to think. You're right. And it's funny how many, Lori always talks about 5,000 details. I think it's more than 5,000 details, honestly. When I look at a wedding, I mean, there's just so many factors that have to come together, and you can do your best to plan ahead for everything, but there will always be something that happens, right? In your experience, have you always found, and is that what you've found as well, that just something, and sometimes multiple things, are bound to happen that are just unexpected things, right?
Yeah, I mean, you literally never know. The wedding could be perfectly planned and everything could be great. And in the situation with this boutonniere, he had thrown his jacket somewhere and then it came undone. So like any small little teeny tiny thing could change everything.
Hmm.
And you just have to know how to think quick on your feet and be able to communicate with the people that are working the wedding, specifically the vendors, and kind of quickly problem solve as much as you can. And that's why we are definitely problem solvers as wedding planners.
Right.
We have to know how to be able to do that and be able to do that quickly, swiftly, and calmly. I was just on a podcast talking about staying calm. And yeah, so doing things in a calm manner where people don't notice that there's something going on,
That's
which
exactly
is,
right.
I internalize all of that calmness. I try my best to stay calm on the outside, but on the inside I'm freaking out. But on the outside I keep that calm demeanor.
Yeah, that's our job, absolutely. And I think that's great. That now, as your career has developed there in the Boston area, and you've been making these connections, have you noticed that vendors, now that they maybe have worked with you on a wedding or two, you've gained their confidence, and they can see that, oh, this guy's a little different than other wedding planners I may have worked with. This guy
Yeah.
seems there seems to be something different about him.
I get that saying probably at about 95% of the venues that I go to.
Hmm.
And I think that there's a lot of planners in my area that I think that's one thing that I really stand out with. And I think I've learned that through all of my education is is how to work with venues, because the venue is the place that houses everything. All vendors come to this one place to perform and to do this wedding. And so, being able to communicate with the venue, making sure the venue is comfortable with the things that you're doing, especially with the things that brides and grooms alike are coming out with, all these different ideas that they're finding on Pinterest and on wedding magazines and things like that. There are some things that make venues a little bit uncomfortable, and they don't want you to do that sort of thing. And so one of the comments that I get frequently is that I'm able to make the venue feel really at peace. And rather than like stepping on the venue's toes or creating any friction, I'm the type of wedding planner that creates a well-oiled machine versus creating friction with the venue. And so one of the compliments I get most frequently from the venue is like, wow, we have worked with so many bad planners and you are one of the best that we have been able to work together, collaborate, and make this wedding go as smooth and as easy as possible.
I love that. Yeah, that's something we really try to stress, and I'm sure you do as well, to a wedding venue. I understand the idea of owning a wedding venue and feeling like people are on your property, and you have a certain way that most weddings go, but every wedding is unique. Every client is unique and different and have their own little thoughts. And I think it's important for all of us as wedding vendors, no matter what part of the industry we're in, is not to get in that box of it's just another wedding here, here's my, but it's just not a plug and play type situation. That's what's so fun about the wedding industry. It's such a creative environment, but a high stress environment as well. So I think that's so great that you're making a name for yourself there among the venues, and that really they really are seeing the difference between working with a planner who we all know could be Aunt Sally or Uncle Joe or whoever. And then that's the difference between that and working with a certified wedding planner who takes their career seriously. What would your advice be to maybe a bride and groom or a couple who are planning their wedding, and they've already picked out their venue, and the venue says, you know what, we handle all the planning, don't worry about it, we can handle all that planning for you. What are your thoughts about that?
I would say hire a certified wedding planner. And I would say the reason for that is because you never know what might happen throughout the day that you need a shoulder to just be there for you to lean on. Anyone. I mean, I have seen it time and time again. A lot of times, I'm there for emotional support. I've been working with them. I'm one of the vendors that they probably know the best out of all the vendors that they're working with. I'm probably the one that they have either been working with for a very long time, or that they are meeting much more frequently than, let's say, a photographer or a DJ or a band. You're meeting with the planner much more frequently. You build a relationship with that individual, and they really understand you as a person and as a couple. And as a planner, how to react and counteract certain things. And there's been times where you are there in the getting ready room, and there's things going on, and you just need someone there to help everyone stay calm and know that everything is okay. There's also times where the wedding planner can save you from dropping food out of your mouth onto your wedding dress. Like I've done that numerous times where I'm there holding my hands under their face because I noticed that the sandwich or the coffee or whatever is going to fall. And so that's the value that hiring a certified wedding planner brings. It's that person who's there with you the entire time, from the very beginning to the very end of your process.
That's true. Yeah, that's great. And there is a place for every single wedding vendor. There is a spot in that wedding day for every vendor, and each vendor has a very specific job. You know, the venue's job is to make sure the venue is clean, that the chairs are in the right place, that the food, if they do catering, is handled, and that the staff knows what to do and in what order things are coming and all of that, right? Has nothing to do with all of the other details that a wedding planner, an independent certified wedding planner, is also keeping in mind and handling the timeline of the day, the photography, the videography, and making sure the DJ knows the right cues and all of the things that are happening. So yeah, it's good to have someone who's kind of stepping back and watching it from a farther distance and just kind of overseeing and making sure that things are going smoothly. It's not about control, it's about peace of mind and having an independent person handling that day. So if you're in the Boston area, or it sounds like anywhere in the Northeast, and you're planning a wedding now, please reach out to Joel. He sounds like he's got his act together and he's ready to handle anything that you can think of when it comes to planning your wedding or event. So Joel, how would folks get a hold of you if they're in the area and planning an event?
Sure. So they can reach out to me at joel@justplannedevents.com or visit my website at www.justplannedevents.com or Instagram at justplannedevents.com. My mobile number, my business number is on all three of those places. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope you reach out. If you're planning an event, reach out to Just Planned Events. They'll take care of you. And if you're interested in completing your wedding planning certification, reach out to us at the Bridal Society. You can go to our website, thebridalsociety.com. We are more than just a certification program. What we do is lifetime membership. As Joel knows, you know, once you complete our certification, you are a member for life. We don't charge any yearly dues or monthly dues. You're a member, you have access to all kinds of business development programs. We call them continuing education. We call them planner workshops, whatever you want to call them, but they're on several topics concerning or having to do with the wedding planning industry. So if you're interested, take a look at our website. Joel, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And you have a great holiday, and we'll see you in the new year. And thanks again. Also, Joel works with us at the Bridal Society as a member concierge. So he helps remind our members of all their many benefits. And every once in a while, he's on our forum, reminding our members about our special discounts with our industry partners. And we really appreciate your help with that as well, Joel. And you just recently helped us with our Wedding Planner Summit. Once a year, all our wedding planners from all over the world get together. And Joel was our host for our murder mystery game that some of our VIPs were able to be a part of. And we really appreciate your help with that as well, Joel.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and I'm always excited to be a part of this group. It really feels like a family here, a family of, I forget how many we are, but family of 5,000. I forget the exact number, but 5,000 plus strong. It's really exciting.
Yeah, we're glad to have you as part of the family. It doesn't just feel like family, it is family. So it's great to have you as part of that as well, Joel. And have a great holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year.
Thank you. See you. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you.
Bye.